This is our second official meeting. And we need to do the statement regarding virtual meetings. Chad, are you going to handle that?
Absolutely. The opening statement I've shared on the screen. In light of the 2020 COVID-19 virus and current guidance regarding physical distancing to reduce the potential for spread, meetings of the Richmond Regional Planning District Commissions have transitioned to a virtual format. Regional public bodies were granted authority to conduct meetings electronically pursuant to the provisions of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3708.2 and related legislation approved by the General Assembly of Virginia during the period of the Governor's State of Emergency Declaration for COVID-19. While we do not know the exact duration of the current practice of electronic meetings, we will continue to function in this manner until such time as it is deemed appropriate to return to in-person meetings. Staff provided notice of this meeting and the means by which we are virtually gathered to members of the public on October 6, 2020, through electronic posting on the PlanRVA website and email distribution of notice to members, alternates, and known interested parties, including the media. This meeting will be recorded and is being live streamed to YouTube. The recordings of the meeting and materials will be posted on the PlanRVA website within 48 hours of the meeting. Any member of the public participating as an observer during the meeting today may submit comments or questions at any time prior to or during the meeting via email at cvta@planrva.org. All comments and questions submitted at this time will be reviewed following the meeting, and to the extent practical, responses will be provided or posted on the PlanRVA website. We ask that members identify themselves first when speaking so we can more accurately record the activities of the meeting. All lines should be muted to minimize additional noise and feedback. You may unmute your line at any time to request acknowledgement from the chair. Does anyone have any questions regarding the process for assuring effective facilitation of this meeting or for how members of the public may participate? I will now ask our clerk to certify we have followed the approved procedures for appropriate notice of this meeting and the means by which we are convening.
Good afternoon. This is Diane Fusco with PlanRVA filling in for Ms. Mueller, and I can certify those procedures were followed.
Thank you, Ms. Fusco. Please indicate your presence by saying aye when your name is called during a roll call. Anyone who wishes to identify themselves following the roll call of members will be invited to do so.
Roll call starting with Town of Ashland. Ms. Amos.
Aye.
Charles City County, Ms. Russell.
Aye.
Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Kilduff. Hanover County, Mr. Vadunas.
Aye.
Mr. Flagg.
Aye.
Henrico County, Mr. Ure.
Aye.
Ms. Smidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Ms. Leduc.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. Pompey.
Here.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Bridewell.
Here.
I'm sorry, for Powhatan County, Mr. Chardine.
Here.
DRPT, Ms. DeBrule. Ms. Dubinsky. VDOT, Mr. Mann. Mr. Riblet. GRTC Transit System, Ms. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Del Ross,
Aye.
RMTA, Ms. Dean, and Plan RVA, Mr. Parsons.
Aye. I believe
Thank
that
you.
Mr. Riblet did answer yes, if you didn't catch that.
Okay, thank you.
And we did, Mr. Euro, we got a notification from Ms. Dean that she had a conflicting meeting with RMTA, so she was not able to join us today.
Okay, thank you, Chet.
Yep. Thank you, Chet. I had to join back by phone. I lost the Zoom connection on the computer. So, Mark Riblet, yes, I'm here.
Okay, so that completes the roll call, and we have certification of quorum, Ms. Fusco.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, next item, labeled number 1 on the agenda is the approval of the CVTA tech meeting agenda. And there was additional information sent out this morning. Is that correct, Chet?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. But that does not change the order of the agenda or any of the items on the agenda.
No, it was supporting documentation for item 5C.
Very good. So do we have a motion?
So moved. Barb Smith.
Joe Biden, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Shall we do roll call?
Ms. Amos,
Aye.
Ms. Russell, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Vadunas,
Aye.
Mr. Ure,
Aye.
Ms. Leduc,
Aye.
Mr. Pompey,
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item, number 2 on the agenda, approval of the September 21st, 2020 CBTA TAC action meeting minutes. Those minutes were included in the agenda package as well as the voting record tables for each of the actions. So anybody have any issues, corrections to the meeting minutes? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Barb Smith, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Irona Clark. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Shall we do roll call?
Ms. Amos,
Aye.
Ms. Russell, Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Vadunas,
Aye.
Mr. Ure,
Aye.
Ms. Leduc,
Aye.
Mr. Pompey,
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda, number 3, CVTA Tech Chairman's Report. I have nothing to report other than thank you for everybody's efforts to date, and thank you in particular to Chet and Plan RVA staff for stepping up and helping with this effort, and things seem to be progressing well. And with that, I will turn it over to Chet for the next item, which is the tech staff update.
Thank you very much. I don't have any correspondence to report other than the notice from Ms. Dean that she was unable to join us this afternoon. I did want to use this time to update everyone that we have all of the CVTA, both the authority and both committees, the meetings for at least the next 4 to 5 months are on the Plan RVA shared calendar. If you go to our website, so you get an understanding of kind of the space between the meetings and how it coordinates with TPO meetings and work groups and other committees, as well as the Plan RVA Commission. So those are all updated to the calendar, and I believe that everyone has been apprised of those already, but we just have it there for ease of reference. The other thing that I wanted to share as terms of the staff update was the process flowchart for the financial cycle. This is something that was shared with the, let's see if I can make this. This was shared with the Finance Committee at their last meeting as just a general guide of how the money flows from collection to distribution. And then it is a cycle, so we want to evaluate that process from time to time. And I think that everyone is engaged with that. But the hope here and the feedback we got from the Finance Committee was that we would eventually be able to plug in more details as we know them in terms of timeframes and possibly amounts or percentages. It's just some more description of what the process is and how we can expect to work through the procedures from collection on the distribution and sales tax end to receipt of funds by local, regional, and transit pots. So this is the goal here was to make this kind of an outward-facing flow chart that was simple in nature, so that the public and people who aren't engaged on a day-to-day basis with this process can get an understanding of what happens and why, and be able to have a reference to the code language if they wish to have it, to understand the process. So this is like I said in the beginning, this is dynamic and will be updated as needed, but we just had to put it out there as a tool. We did get feedback from the Finance Committee at their September meeting that they wanted to see more meat in this that explains where things are coming from and where they're headed. So we'll strive to do that once we know more information.
Thank you, Chet. Any other updates?
No other updates. Thanks.
Okay, next item on the agenda, number 5, committee work task updates. We have several components in here. First being under subtab A, regional project prioritization, as relates to the TPO long-range plan process. Chet?
Yes, we had discussed briefly at our last meeting, at our first meeting, about how this prioritization process would work. And, you know, kind of there's lots of questions about when the CBTA would establish their regional priorities for that 35%, and how that would work, and is there a relationship between CBTA priorities and TPO priorities? I think I had shared publicly, privately, if not, that my hope is that the TPO priorities hope to align and inform CBTA as decisions are made on what the regional priorities are by the CBTA. And I firmly understand that CBTA isn't ready to make that commitment yet, because they haven't seen, no one's seen how the TPO is going to prioritize projects for the long range plan. So I don't think that there's any immediate time frame for CBTA to make a decision about how the regional priorities are identified, knowing that the TPO will have a process start to roll out possibly next month to the TAC and the other work groups on the TPO side. And with that information, hopefully it will help inform you all on what the framework looks like, what the metrics are, and how that might translate to identifying regional priorities for the CVTA. So I don't have any, there aren't any recommendations at this point. I don't think there's anything actually for this body to consider yet, because you don't have anything to talk about other than kind of the hopes of where the TPO process is going. It is under development, and I can tell you that we're trying to incorporate as many quantitative processes as possible, combinations of smart scale evaluation, RSTP and CMAC evaluation, environmental issues, and many of the other tools that have been used by different groups and organizations as they evaluate project worthiness and readiness. We are developing a tool that kind of incorporates all of that with an added equity component, so that we can be as transparent as possible to the public, and there won't be hopefully as much room for interpretation as needed as there used to be, and it'll be more data driven and data focused. I may have rambled. I apologize.
No, thank you, Chet. That it's an important topic, so rambling is acceptable. And I will share with the group that Chet and I have spoken with this, and I've spoken with a number of the other members at different points in time regarding, I guess, what our expectations are for this process. And I think we definitely need to be deliberate on the development of it and make sure, to Chet's point, that it is transparent to not only the public, but to the localities and to the member agencies, so that everybody knows what we're getting into, knows what everything looks like. And also, as I shared with Chet, we want to have a comfort level at the localities that, projects that are important to each of our localities, how they would fare with such a process. So the ability to test projects out in advance, I think, would be very helpful before action is taken to make sure that any adjustments we need in the process can occur in a timely fashion. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Chair, this is Diana. I just have a quick question. It seems, maybe just for clarification, so there's some development to me that's happening in a silo, and I'm just trying to figure out when exactly, we're going to be involved in any of the process and beginning to understand. I know you said November rollout. So is that the rollout of, these are the metrics we're using, these are these elements of it, or here's the prioritization process? So I guess a little bit on what role we would play in the input process and the development, and then the time frame that we should be anticipating.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, the intent is that hopefully in November you will start being introduced to the metrics. We are not ready to complete a process, and we wouldn't presume that we can do that without feedback from the TAC and involvement from the TAC. That's on the TPO side. I'm not sure formally if there is a role yet for the CBTA until the TPO has a process to consider. I think that, that's procedural as far as I'm concerned. So that's up to you on how soon you want to be involved. But yeah, the idea, Dorona, is that staff is putting together the tool. It's a pretty technical and time intensive process. So we wanted to have our ducks in a row before we started to try and pass it through the TAC members without having reviewed it before. So I think we'll be ready soon, and we want to get you involved as soon as possible to advise and provide feedback on the metrics themselves.
And just to follow up to that, again, when would we expect it to be completed, the entire tool? I know pending the process itself, but you know, after this part in the development of the framework, you know, is it the end of the plan's deadline completion date?
We are focused on October of 21 as the date for when the long-range plan has to be adopted and approved by the federal government. And working backwards from there, there needs to be adequate time for everything else to be completed. So we hope that the prioritization tool is, our plan is to have it done by the end of the calendar year, if not early in the first quarter. So January, probably at the latest.
Of 2022?
No, 21.
Oh, okay.
2 months from now.
Todd,
Yes, Barb.
just as a point of clarification, the regional project prioritization tool is being developed on the TPO side, and it may end up being a good tool for us to use at the CVTA, certainly an option, but we don't necessarily have to use that tool. And if we wanted, we could be developing our own prioritization process for the CVTA. I think there's a desire that it would all line up nicely and work for both organizations, the TPO and the CVTA, but I don't know that we can make the assumption that it will.
This is Chet. I mean, I agree. CBTA is not bound by any means to use that. We want to introduce the TPO process as quickly as we can, because if there's going to be a second process that staff needs to be involved with, I need to know quickly so that we can allocate adequate time to focus on that. If we're developing two different processes, then we need to know as soon as possible.
This is Diana.
Yes,
Just to piggyback on what Barb is saying. So it seems though that we have an option one to be that of the TPO's prioritization process, and what lends to any other options that would be presented to the CVTA, even if it's not as technical as a tool, but even how strategies and getting to prioritization occurs. Is that something that could be developed so that at least, again, there's options in what the CVTA members will choose? That's just some thoughts I was having on piggybacking off of that.
Todd,
Yes, Barb.
I would think that we would take a look at the TPO's process, and if it didn't fit well for us, then that would be the time that we would come up with another option.
Agreed. And Chad, if you could verify the statement that the proposed process that's going to be rolled out to the TPO will require TPO TAC approval, and I assume also TPO policy board approval.
We would like the process that's always been followed is that there's an advisory committee which has TAC members included for the long range plan. That group is responsible for shepherding the process through to the finish, but we certainly want TAC buy-in for that. I don't believe that we need to have policy board approval of the process, but TAC will absolutely be heavily relied upon to vet the process and make sure that it meets everyone's needs.
So the fact that many of the folks on this meeting that serve in the CVTA TAC either are the TPO TAC representative or have a very close communication with those that are, that would lead me to believe that what is initially rolled out as the draft process on the TPO side can certainly be tweaked if that's appropriate to make sure that it can work for all funding sources across both agencies if that would be suitable to the group. I think that would be a goal. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns regarding the prioritization process?
Todd, I have a question,
Yes, Joe.
or maybe just for clarification. This is one that always gets me when we talk about regional projects. Are we talking about projects that are located within the region? Or are we talking about projects of a scope and scale that have implications for travel, transportation throughout the region, like a major interstate improvement?
That's a great question, Joe. I mean, one of the things that staff is developing as part of this, the background lead up to the prioritization process is kind of a series of if-then statements regarding regional, what makes a project regional and what doesn't. So we'll be able to, as we've developed a list of potential projects throughout the region, a universe of projects is what we're calling it. We'll be able to take each one of those and run it through that filter to say, okay, this qualifies, this doesn't qualify. And that means that project A moves on because it is regional in nature and the other one is not. So,
yes, because I think what we're talking about here are projects that have regional implications and not just being located within, yeah, okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, much like I guess the analogy would be the smart scale process and how there are projects that qualify under the high priority category that can be contained solely within a jurisdiction. I guess that would be equivalent to a regional project in that funding scheme. Any other questions, comments on that item? All right, hearing none, moving on to 5B, Regional Public Transportation Plan Process Update. Chet.
Yeah, thanks. This is a fairly quick update. There were lots of questions following our first meeting where staff presented a draft scope for the Regional Public Transportation Plan. There were a lot of assumptions made in that scope, and since then we've been able to clarify through conversations with DRPT, with the Secretary of Transportation, with GRTC themselves about what the roles are in terms of developing this plan, and then what the process should be moving forward. The TPO's Public Transportation Work Group has been assisting and collaborating with GRTC to refine that scope, a consultant scope, to develop the Regional Public Transportation Plan. And that is moving forward. GRTC, by the code, is the group responsible for developing this, the Regional Public Transportation Plan, and they're required to collaborate with the TPO in that development. So the process moving forward is that GRTC will continue to lead that process using the TPO's Public Transportation Work Group as a steering committee of sorts for guidance and collaboration as they navigate the development of the plan. The plan itself does need to identify public transportation priorities. Those priorities, that component of the plan is what the CVTA needs to consider before allocating the 15% or transferring, I'm not sure the correct terminology, transferring the 15% to GRTC for use in improving public transportation in the region. This process is, again, it's driven by GRTC, and it helps to supplement the plans that they are required to do already, and builds on the work that they've done previously. So the idea moving forward is that a lot of the work that has been done in the region regarding public transportation, like the Transit Vision Plan, short and medium range projects study that was just completed, the TDP, the TSP, all of those things will inform the consultant as they develop this kind of next step in public transportation plan for the region. This is a little bit of a shift from our last discussion, so I'm sure people have questions, and I believe Ms. Torres is here too. If I've misspoken on anything, she can help answer those questions.
Thank you, Chet. Adrian, are you on? Would you like to address?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
I mean, Chet pretty much gave the whole update. So if there are any specific questions, I am happy to answer them.
Mr. Chair, this is Diana. I just have a quick question for Chet in regard to the CVTA draft budget where it says 200,000 sub-allocation for regional public transportation. Could you explain what we're talking about now and any correlation in that dollar amount?
I'm sorry, Dorena, what are you looking at? I'd like to follow along.
Sorry, the CVTA draft budget that's under for the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep, right there.
Yes, let me zoom in a little bit. So that 200,000 is an estimate for what the consultant fees, the top end of those may be, and I believe that I mean, Adrian, I believe that's correct, that those fees will come out of the 15% allocation or revenue split to cover the cost of doing this regional public transportation plan that we're discussing. It wouldn't come out of the regional pod or the local pod, it would come out of the transit component.
This is Adrian. Yes, that is our request.
This is Diana. So Adrian, just for a little bit more clarification, based on the letter that was mailed to the localities from Julie Tim, there was almost, it seemed like a three-step process that's occurring. There was a letter that was to be approved as the FY21 Regional Transportation Plan. And then two, there is seemingly an annual TDP update that is occurring that you're doing that says it's completed July 2021, correct?
So the Regional Transportation Plan will feed into what is our annual TDP update. As far as this is our request for using some of the 15% from FY21 to pay for the consultant services to develop the plan. The rest of the request is for the money to go into a reserve until a plan is developed to be able to utilize it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that. So again, and then we talk about a plan that's to be completed to have a more complete plan or some kind of update for 2022. Is that where the full strategic planning process would occur, or what exactly is that?
Well, our goal in the scope is to have 2 alternatives completed by the end of December. At that point in time, we can satisfy the DRPT update parallel track with the TDP. However, an overall plan that is what we move forward with for FY22, which we're assuming is probably going to be some sort of phased implementation approach of some sort of, if we do enhancements, that will be completed no later than the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. I mean, I really want to help our members to understand what's occurring. And I'm still a little bit confused, but I can talk to you. We'll talk Friday, and I'll try to get, because I thought you all were telling me that it was an annual TDP update that was occurring, which goes back to some of what's required based on the code that's presented in the CVTA Act. So I'm just trying to get a clear understanding.
Okay, happy to go over it with you on Friday.
Thank you, Adrian. Any other questions, concerns, comments regarding the regional public transportation plan process? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to item 5C, Transit Service Governance Report, Draft Scope. Chet.
Yes, thank you. This was, I believe, sent out to everyone this morning, and I apologize for the lateness. There were many edits going back and forth. Oh, not that one. I have, yeah, here's the scope of services as it stands now. I'm sure everyone will have a chance to look over this, and we'd be happy to take feedback, comments later. This was developed in coordination with a number of folks on the committee, as well as our legal counsel, and the basic changes between the draft that was shared at our first meeting and this one is that it's been streamlined a good deal to focus on the requirements that the code presented. And those are, like we have here, to evaluate the governance structure of GRTC, to evaluate the establishment of a transportation district, and provide options for both, and then to report the progress to the Governor and General Assembly by December 1st. In my, and the last one I'll address now, my discussions with the Secretary of Transportation's office are that the report does not need to be completed by December 1st, that if we can show a good faith effort that the CBTA is developing this report and share kind of the milestones and an outline by December 1st, then that would be sufficient and satisfy their needs. They are in full understanding that COVID has impacted everything, and the original timeline set out in the legislation can't really apply at this point. So I don't think that CBTA needs to be as concerned with the December 1st deadline as we had originally presumed. But we do need to show good faith and shoot to complete the report in the first 2 quarters of 2021, so that we have it finished by the end of this fiscal year. And then the components of the scope itself, consultant engagement and the study schedule. There are 5 phases. So assessment of the governance structure, evaluation of the transportation district, options for governance strategies, and then the preparation of the report. And there are tasks and deliverables for each of those. The study budget itself was reduced to not exceed $50,000, and that reflects a lot of the things that came out that were previously in the scope at our first meeting. So phase 1 is the assessment of the governance structure with a deadline of November 30th to complete that. And that includes strategic assessment of GRTC, board governments, organizational funding, federal, state, local laws, regulations, and ordinances, requirements associated with changes in ownership structure and bylaw changes, assessment of GRTC's peer transit agencies. And this is the one outstanding question here is that what are the requirements for assessment and benchmarking, and does that need to be included or not? The discussion was to compare assessment and benchmarking with the two other authorities in the state, so Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. And I think that needs to be decided still. Phase 2 was evaluation of a transportation district and what that means. And then phase 3 are the options for potential governance strategies. And deliverables with each of these. Phase 4 is development of the draft report, which will be delivered to the CVTA no later than the end of January. And then the final report itself would be delivered by the end of March. These dates are just aren't identified for any reason other than to keep that good faith effort moving, to get a report to the Governor and General Assembly as soon as possible. Final deliverables, we've identified obviously digital, and then any data and files are the property of the CVTA.
Yeah, thank you for the overview. And before we open up the questions, I'd like to thank you for reaching out to the Secretary of Transportation's office to get clarification on their expectations and requirements, as many know, that language was put in the governor's at the governor's request towards the end of the legislation. So I think there was maybe a lack of understanding and clarity on many of our parts involved in the legislation on sort of maybe the expectations and motivations behind that language. So thank you for reaching out to them on that. With that being said, we'll open up to questions.
Todd, I have a question.
Yes, Barb.
Getting back to task 1.3, the one that you said might still need some discussion. I was wondering if there was value in, we're looking at GRTC and peer transit agencies, whether there's value in looking at the relationship of other transportation authorities and the transit agencies that fall within those regions, just to see how transit works with the NOVA authority and how transit works with Hampton Roads. I just wanted to get people's thoughts on that.
This is Todd. I'd say there's maybe no harm in doing that. I think if we just focus on Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, it's a pretty short exercise, just because of our knowledge of how, for the most part, there's very little involvement and overlap between the transit side and the local authorities, other than Northern Virginia does allow their authority funding to fund capital projects that are transit related, but no operational support or involvement. And to my knowledge, Hampton Roads has none, but somebody's welcome to correct me.
This is Diana. Yeah, Todd, what I was seeing in regard to Hampton Roads Regional Transit and the HR TAC being its board is a kind of direct relation in some of the transit governance structure that we're discussing. I think that one of the other things that did get crossed off too, Chet, was in regard to the role of debt funding and capital programs. So are we looking to have, multi-million dollars solely spent, with GRTC doing expansions and purchasing capital? Is it the authorities, is it the authority to say, okay, you do whatever you can do? Because right now they don't have bonding ability. They don't have borrowing ability. So I really don't understand how some of that leveraging is going to occur of these millions of dollars without some connection with an entity that will be able to do some of those things. So that was just my input in trying to look at some of the ways that even again, debt funding and other things that happen at Hampton Roads between, so there may not be any direct operational dollars, but there is the relationship that allows for projects to occur that are of high cost.
Todd,
Yes, Barb.
I would suggest, even if it is a short exercise in explaining how it works, that we include it throughout the process of developing the CVTA. We've always taken the time to kind of look and see how does it work in Northern Virginia and how does it work in Hampton Roads. So I would think with this transit governance piece, trying to just understand the relationship between the transit agencies in those two areas and the types of projects funded, if they are or are not with authority funds, might be worthwhile or even just informative, so people understand that it doesn't make sense to try to model after them because the authorities are just put together differently than here in Richmond.
Yeah, and if I could, Todd, I totally agree. I don't think that they have a model that we could exactly copy, but there may be elements of each of the models that may be something we need to consider during this process.
Understood. Any other questions, comments, observations?
Just clarification, Todd, this is Chet. Is the recommendation to leave task 1.3 in? Is that what we're discussing? Okay.
That's what I heard from Barb and Dorana. Joe is the one that made the comment in the edits. I guess we can get him to weigh in on his thoughts in light of this discussion.
Yeah, I'm fine with leaving it in. My reasoning for taking it out was really was just trying to follow very strictly what the directive was in the code, which was very specific to the governance structure and to transportation districts. But there's certainly some value, and I imagine just in the assessment that was going to be done that the consultant would have been looking at these two entities in some respects. So I'm comfortable with that being in there.
Thank you, Joe. We always rely on your little interpretation of the task before us for guidance, so that's helpful.
I'm a very literal guy.
Any other questions, comments on this task or any of the other tasks at this point?
Hey, Todd, Barb.
Yes, Barb.
Real quickly, I think in Nova, there's also some sort of transportation district up there.
And in Hampton Roads.
Okay,
There's a
so yeah.
Transportation District Commission of Hampton Roads.
So that'll help us to evaluate that part of it too. So
maybe add those.
Let's say, does that need to be a clarification in that task item to basically define those roles in those regions?
I think it's in there already, number 3.
Okay, got it.
Got it. Thanks.
So anybody else have any observations, requests? All right, Chet, can you walk us through timeline on this. I know that we do have a target date of December 1 for some level of update to the governor's office and General Assembly, and also make sure that everybody in this group has an opportunity for any final edits or clarifications on this draft scope.
Sure. I can stumble through it, and Tiffany can jump in and correct me if I say anything incorrectly. We are able to use the DRPT consultant bench, and that streamlines the procurement process. And they have a planning bench as well as a finance bench. So there's multiple options to consider for qualified consultants on either one of those. I think that moving forward, we would certainly want to make sure that everyone here has been able to provide any last minute comments or additions that they would like to consider, but we don't want to wait too long. I think we can move forward as quickly as able to finalize the scope and work with DRPT to identify the consultant and get them started with the goal of meeting the dates set forth in the scope.
Chet, I'd offer to ask you to give a hard deadline on when you'd like any final comments back.
Sure. I would say if we can get comments by, how about a week from now, the 20th?
Will that allow time if there's something that you'll need to push back out to the group for any follow-up, allow you time to do that as well? Or do you need to back it up a little bit?
Let's back it up then. Any comments by Friday the 16th? And then we can incorporate those and get any additional considerations back out to the group early the week after.
Sounds good to me. Everybody good with that timeline?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not hearing any opposition, so please get any comments on this draft that Chet sent out this morning by this Friday. And then Chet, could you give us assuming you don't need to push back out to the group after you receive any final comments, can you give us an update following that, what the status is and that it is going forward?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
I will incorporate the task 1.3 that we just discussed and send out a new copy to everybody with a deadline in the email.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chet. Okay, that covers all three items under the committee work task updates. Does anybody have any final questions, concerns, comments regarding any of those items? Okay, hearing none, that moves us to item 6, public comment period. Did we have anybody requesting to make any comments, Jeff?
No, we didn't get anything prior to. If there were any that were submitted during the meeting, we will document and get those out to you all for consideration.
Very good. Next item, number 7, future meeting topics and schedule. I did not have the opportunity to go on your comprehensive calendar on the website to identify the next meeting. So Chet, could you share that with the group?
Absolutely. I'm going to check too. Just bear with me. Looks like November 9th, Monday, November 9th.
Okay, at 1 o'clock?
Yes.
All right, what items do you anticipate bringing to the TAC at that meeting?
Well, I expect we'll have an update on the governance report. Hopefully we'll be close to having someone underway by then. And then we may have an update as well on the regional public transportation plan. I hope also by then we'll have news from the Finance Committee in terms of agreements and VDOT agreements, as well as Plan RVA, so that we can maybe have a discussion on disbursements and reporting. Once VDOT disperses the first revenue chunk, we should be able to start looking at percent distributions and those kinds of things, at least to develop some estimates. So that's probably going to be information that the group might be interested in.
Okay, and there is a finance committee meeting tomorrow morning, I believe.
That's correct.
And they're essentially picking up all of the items that were on their first agenda and hopefully getting action on those.
That's right. And in particular, they're looking at the VDOT revenue transfer agreement, the support services agreement for Plan RVA, and the operating budget itself.
And then on your calendar, you just had pulled up, there's another finance committee meeting on the morning of the CVTA TAC meeting. So we will not be having another meeting between the two finance committee meetings. Do you have any visibility on what items may be on the finance committee meeting for November 9th?
There may be, I mean, we're kind of taking their lead, but there may be banking services. There's probably a couple RFPs related to banking and investment services. I don't know what else, but following tomorrow, we can certainly give this group a heads up based on what decisions are made.
I think that might be helpful, since many on this call do interact with the representatives on that committee.
Sure.
And also the next CVTA board meeting is on Friday, October 30th. That's been confirmed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And spoiler alert, Henrico County will be hosting this meeting live and in person and with virtual options at our training center located on Parham Road near Broad Street. So those of you that have not been there, I'm sure we'll collectively be providing very good directions, and you'll be following the new format for virtual meeting attendance that we're now using for these committee meetings, which seems to be working well. So yeah, thank you for that. I know that was one of the challenges with the first full CBTA meeting was just the platform and some of the technical and user issues with that. So I'm glad we've got that worked out. Okay, so any other future meeting topics we need to be aware of at the TAC, Chet?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, very good. Next item on here is CVTA TAC member comments. Does anybody have any anything they'd like to share with the group or any questions? All right, we've lulled them into submission. So I guess when you stack two TAC meetings together, that this is what you get. So I don't know if that was intentional or coincidental. So.
We're doing the best we can.
All right. With if nobody has anything else, then we can adjourn, and we're at right at 1 hour. So thank you for everybody.